各位记者朋友，大家
Good afternoon. Welcome to today's press conference. Now questions, please.
谢谢发言人。总台央视记者提问：当前伊朗局势持续紧张。
CCTV, amid the current tense situation and ongoing military conflict in Iran, Foreign Minister Wang Yi had phone calls with his counterparts from multiple countries. Can you share more details on that? In the recent phone calls with Russian, Iranian, French, and Omani foreign ministers, Foreign Minister Wang Yi have articulated China's position and actively worked for peace and cessation of the conflict. Foreign Minister Wang pointed out that it is unacceptable for the U.S. and Israel to launch attacks against Iran when there is ongoing negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, still less to blatantly attack and kill the leader of a sovereign country and instigate government change. These actions violate international law and basic norms of international relations. China's position is as follows. First, immediately stop the military operations. Second, go back to the track of dialogue and negotiations as soon as possible. Third, jointly oppose unilateral moves. Foreign Minister Wang stressed that China supports Iran in defending sovereignty and security, territorial integrity and national dignity, and in safeguarding its own legitimate and lawful rights and interests. China takes seriously Gulf countries' legitimate concerns and supports them in upholding their sovereignty and security. Major countries should not use their military advantages to arbitrarily attack other countries, and the world must not slip back to the law of the jungle. Any moves that violate international law should be opposed by the world, and basic norms governing international relations should be jointly upheld. China will continue to play a constructive role, stand firm for justice in the UN Security Council and other platforms, and work for peace and stop the warfare. Next one, please.
Question for Anadolu Agency. After U.S. and Israel started their military operation on Iran, conflict is now expanding through Middle East. Israel is reported to target Tehran and Beirut at the same time, and several neighboring countries hosting U.S. bases are targeted in retaliatory strikes by Iran as well. What is China's comment?
美国和以色列未经安理会
The U.S. and Israeli blatant military operations against Iran violate international law. China is deeply concerned over the regional spillover of the conflict. China believes that the security, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Gulf states likewise should be fully respected. China urges other counterparties to stop the military operations and prevent the conflict from spreading to other places.
Another question for Anadolu Agency. In Israel's attacks against Iran, we saw a girls' school is bombed on Saturday, and more recently, I guess this very recently, Iran's public broadcaster, IRIB's buildings in Tehran were targeted in military attacks. We are now witnessing a similar dangerous pattern of targeting civilians, civilian facilities, children, journalists, like we have seen before in Gaza. What is China's comment about these acts?
我们对冲突导致大量平民伤亡深感。
China is deeply saddened by the heavy civilian casualties caused by the conflict. The red line of protecting civilians should not be challenged, and indiscriminate attacks should not be acceptable. China calls on parties to observe international law obligations, safeguard the safety of civilians, and prevent the attacks on civilian facilities. Next one, please.
中英社记者提问：3月2日，国际原子能机构总干事。
China News Service. Yesterday, IAEA Director General Grossi said that we do not see any structural program to manufacture nuclear weapons in Iran, and such a country may have taken actions for political considerations. What's China's comment, and how do you view the prospects of the Iranian nuclear issue resolution? The U.S. again launched attacks against Iran when talks between the U.S. and Iran are ongoing. It violates international law and basic norms in international relations and led to rapid escalation in the Middle East. China is highly concerned about this. China always believes that Iranian nuclear issue should be peacefully resolved through dialogue and negotiations, respects Iran's legitimate rights to peaceful use of nuclear energy. We noted that Iran has repeatedly reiterated that it has no intention to develop nuclear weapons and has recently engaged in serious negotiations with the U.S. The Iranian nuclear issue should be ultimately go back to the track of political and diplomatic settlement. China urges an immediate cessation of military actions, early resumption of dialogue and negotiation, efforts for upholding an international nuclear non-proliferation regime, and maintaining peace and stability in the Middle East and beyond. Next one, please.
Thank you, Ukraine Foreign News Agency. Two questions. The President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, said for Ukrainians it is important to involve China in efforts to end the Russian war in Ukraine. For now, we don't see their involvement, he said. What's China's comments? And the second, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, yesterday in a phone call with a French colleague, said that major countries must not use their military advantage to launch arbitrary attacks against other nations. This statement is addressed to the United States, but is it also addressed to Russia, which has been using its military superiority to destroy Ukraine for 4 years? Thank you.
Since the outbreak of the Ukraine crisis, China has been committed to promoting talks for peace and the end of fighting. China's effort is for all to see. President Xi Jinping, regarding the Ukraine crisis, has put forward 4 principles, namely the sovereignty and territorial integrity should be respected, the purposes and principles of the UN Charter should be observed, the legitimate security concerns of all countries should be taken seriously, and all efforts conducive to a peaceful settlement should be supported. This has all along been China's position. It is also where we stand as we promote the settlement of all hotspot issues. Next one, please.
下午好，法新社提问。
AFP. The Foreign Ministry yesterday confirmed that a Chinese national was killed in Tehran. So in Iran and the Gulf states, are there any other Chinese casualties? Since the military operations started, how many Chinese nationals have been successfully evacuated from Iran and Gulf states?
Yesterday, I shared information on that. And so far, we have no reports on further casualties of Chinese nationals. And since the situation turned tense in Iran, as of yesterday, about 300 Chinese nationals has been evacuated. And neighboring countries, our embassies and consulates in neighboring countries have sent working groups to border ports to provide assistance to Chinese nationals to enter the borders.
Thank you, Bloomberg News. We've reported that China is pressuring Iranian officials to avoid any action that would disrupt Qatari gas exports or other shipments making their way through the Strait of Hormuz. Would the ministry like to comment on this? Thank you.
能源安全对世界经济非常重要，各方都有责任确保。
Energy security is vital to global economy, and parties has the responsibility to ensure unfettered supply of energy and stability of energy supply. China urges parties to stop the military operations, prevent escalation, keep the shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz safe, and prevent and avoid further impact on global economy.
Hello, there's a question from Reuters. Some analysts and officials in other Asian capitals have suggested that China may take border action to stake its territorial claims, including in Taiwan, while the US is distracted in the Middle East conflict. Do you have any comment on this assertion? And also, some analysts and officials in other Asian capitals have said that US actions in Venezuela and Iran may hinder oil supplies to China and weaken their diplomatic allies. Do you have any comment on this assertion as well? Thank you.
首先回答你的第一个问题。
Our first question. Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. The Taiwan question is purely China's domestic affair, and how to resolve the Taiwan question is a matter for Chinese ourselves. And on the second question, China firmly opposes the use of force in international relations or infringement on other countries' sovereignty and security. Energy security is of vital importance to the global economy. Ensuring stable and unfettered energy supply is a responsibility for all, and China will do what is necessary to safeguard its energy security. Next one, please.
A question from AFP again. China's Vice Premier, He Lifeng, and U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent are expected to meet in Paris next week to discuss business deals between the two countries. That has been reported by Bloomberg News. Do you confirm that this meeting will take place? Thank you.
这个问题建议你向中方的
I'd refer you to competent authorities on that. Next one, please. Anything else? Then let's call it a day. Thank you for coming.